Hey, it's Mandy Deagle Smith, and I want to thank you for joining me today. I'm so glad you found me because the information I'm going to share with you here may very well change your life. I want to start off by asking you what might seem on the surface to be a simple question. Why is it so hard to lose weight? If you're here watching this, you've probably asked yourself the same question, maybe over and over and over. So many people are struggling with this every day, especially the majority of the women I work with, women in their 40s and 50s who are dealing with the added challenges of hormonal changes. Get this, nearly three-quarters of Americans are overweight or obese. And it's not like people aren't trying to lose weight. An estimated 45 million Americans go on a diet every year. And on average, each person is making 4 to 5 new attempts within the year. I see people who are successful in every other area of their lives. They're successful in their careers. They're great parents, people who have done amazing things. But the one thing they haven't been able to do is lose their excess weight and keep it off. So the sustainability is the real issue here. The reality is that 99% of people who attempt to lose weight gain it back again within 2 years. So what's going on here? Why is this so hard? What's stopping all of these highly intelligent, highly accomplished people from controlling their weight? And why does the weight rebound seem inevitable? Well, I can't wait to dive into these questions with you because this is a topic that's personal to me. As a teenager, I started gaining weight and feeling uncomfortable in my skin. I did everything I knew of to try and lose the weight, but unfortunately back then, I had no idea what I was doing. I remember after school eating packets of sugar because I learned that each packet was only 16 calories. In college, I was running, swimming, going to the gym. I tried controlling my portions, eating less meat, eating more fruit and vegetables, but remarkably, none of this seemed to make any difference with my weight. Not only that, but I became anemic. I was exhausted all the time and I felt horrible. Later on, I tried low carb, paleo, keto, intermittent fasting. I had various levels of success, but none of these ultimately was the solution for me. Finally, in all my researching, I uncovered some little known information on what actually causes weight gain, why some people gain weight and some don't, why it's such a struggle to take the weight off, and the science behind what actually works to get the weight off for good. I have to tell you, it kind of blew me away because it contradicted everything I thought I knew, what we're all taught, and what everyone around me was doing. Well, I finally lost the excess weight I'd carried around for years. And I've got to tell you, there's nothing like feeling good in your own skin, having energy again, and being able to wear clothes you like and feel good in. So after having struggled for so long, I felt like I needed to share what I'd learned. And I knew I was in a unique position with my education and experience as a psychologist and coach to help a lot of people. Well, since then, I've seen hundreds of people through amazing transformations. People who had tried every diet out there and felt like nothing was going to work for them. People like me who were at the end of their rope because they were already doing everything they knew to do. To finally figure out this puzzle and get to a place where they could feel good in their body, which is such a game changer for so many people. So getting up in the morning and getting to do this as my work, well, it's awesome. But what's hard is that as many people as I've helped, there are so many more people that are still struggling. There are so many people living in a body that's keeping them from doing all the things they want to do. I talk to people who are putting off things that are important to them until they lose the weight, not showing up fully in the world because of how they feel in their body, because they're in pain or achy or tired. And that's exactly how I used to feel. And there are so many programs out there, fad diets and lots of hype, filled with misinformation and approaches that just aren't sustainable. People are getting steered in all kinds of directions that are actually making things worse, making it even harder to maintain their previous weight or to lose the weight the next time around. So that's why I've created this webinar. I feel like it's so important to get the truth out there based on real science, our biology, and an understanding of the brain and our hormones. I've poured through the research, and having worked with hundreds of people, I've seen what works and what doesn't. I've worked with people in all kinds of scenarios with all kinds of issues. And I want to share with you what I've learned so that you can finally take control of your eating and your weight and move on to putting your time and energy into the things in your life that matter most to you. I want you to know that this is absolutely doable. It is possible to lose weight and have it be sustainable, have it be permanent. So in this webinar, I'm going to explain why just about everyone who attempts to lose weight gains the weight back. First, we're going to talk about the 3 biggest mistakes almost everybody makes, how they trip us up, and how to never make those mistakes again. Then I'm going to go over the 4 keys to permanent weight loss. I want to make sure you get a lot of value from the webinar, so I'm going to give you specific strategies that you can use right away to make weight loss doable and something you can stick with long term, like forever. So let's dive in, turn off your phone, take out a pen. You're going to want to take notes here. I've also got something for you at the end that you're not going to want to miss. So make sure you stay all the way through for that. So let's dive into the 3 biggest mistakes most people make when they try to lose weight. There are lots of reasons people struggle, but the challenges I've seen come down to 3 major mistakes, and here they are. The first mistake most people make is that we get sold on this idea that this diet or that diet is the missing solution we've been waiting for. And then we get our hopes up that maybe this time will be different, only to end up back at square one a month or 6 months or a year later. Here's the truth. Every diet works, but only for a small percentage of people. The majority of people gain that weight right back. Because let's face it, trying to find a diet that works is like trying to buy clothes off the rack. Most things are just not quite the right fit. For most people, they're not sustainable. One size does not fit all. But most diets are trying to do just that. The reality is that each of us is unique. We each have our own unique ancestry, genetics, food sensitivities, and all these other things. So the approach you take, the one that will best lead to weight loss and health, needs to take who you are, all these things, into account. In fact, there's a study called the National Weight Control Registry that's looked at 10,000 people who have successfully lost weight and kept it off for at least a year. And what they found is that no 2 people succeeded in quite the same way. Each had their own path to success. So it's clear that the best way for you to lose weight is to find your best path, one that works with your physiology, one that doesn't feel like a battle, and one that you're happy sustaining over time. I mean, this is a key point because the best predictor of what's going to work is the degree to which you can adhere to it and sustain it. The trick is in figuring out what that path is for you. Now, there's an easy way and a hard way to do this, and we're going to dive into that later. But the bottom line here is that you're unique, but the majority of the programs you see out there are not. Let's get into the second mistake. The second mistake most people make is that we blame ourselves when things don't work. We beat ourselves up for every little perceived misstep. We blame our difficulty losing weight on a personal weakness. We think to ourselves, maybe I just don't have enough willpower. Maybe I'm not trying hard enough, or I must not want it enough. And after enough times of going through this cycle, we begin to feel like a failure and wonder whether it's even possible for us. There's actually a name in psychology for this, and it's called learned helplessness. After failing over and over, it's normal to start to give up. I can't tell you the number of people I've talked with who have said things like, I just don't know if anything will work for me. And that's exactly how I used to feel. But what I want you to know is this, that regardless of how much you struggled, how many times you've failed in the past, this is not about a lack of willpower, and it's not about a character flaw. I've seen people with the most willpower and the highest character fall into the very same holes. So succeeding at weight loss really has nothing to do with any of these things. You need to know that we've all been taught the wrong things. I promise there is a solution that will work for you. It's just a matter of uncovering it. And the very first step is to learn to stop blaming yourself and start putting your energy into discovering your path. So the third mistake that most people make is that they fall into one of two ways of thinking about weight loss, or sometimes both. And both of them are flawed, at least to some degree. One is the calories in, calories out paradigm, which implies that we gain weight because we eat too many calories. The other is the carbohydrate hypothesis, which implies that we gain weight because we eat too many carbohydrates. I'm going to talk about the calories in, calories out paradigm in just a minute, but first, I want to address the carbohydrate hypothesis. I know this may come as a shock to a lot of people, but carbohydrates in and of themselves do not cause weight gain. A great example are the Okinawans of Japan, who eat the majority of their calories in the form of sweet potatoes and yet are among the healthiest people on the planet, with more than 3 times the number of centenarians, people living to 100 years or more, than found in a US population of the same size. And like low-fat diets, people on low-carb diets also run into obstacles when it comes to keeping the weight off permanently. So now let's talk about the calories in, calories out theory. I want to talk for a minute about this way of thinking and show you exactly how it trips us up. The thinking goes this way. If we eat less and exercise more, we'll lose weight. Now, this appeals to our reasoning because on the surface, it makes logical sense, right? It's a nice linear equation we can get our heads around. And it's tempting because there is truth to it. To lose weight, our energy output does need to exceed our energy input. The danger here is that this is way oversimplified. What's actually happening in our bodies is much more nuanced and much more complex. So if we're taking in too many calories, this doesn't explain why we might be doing this. I mean, what's making us hungry or causing our cravings or making us feel sluggish or tired? This misses the boat in so many ways. So when we're stuck in this mindset, we end up doing a lot of the wrong things and allowing ourselves to get pulled in all kinds of directions that don't get results. Let's take a look at what actually happens when we try to lose weight by consciously cutting out calories. We eat less and maybe we get started on an exercise plan. So we go into calorie deficit and we lose some weight, which is awesome. The problem is that the weight loss never lasts. It slows down and stops, and eventually the weight creeps back on. We've all experienced this. Study after study has shown this. So what's going on here? Well, if you think about it, for the majority of the millions of years of living on this planet, eating less and losing weight has not been a good thing for humans. So when we lose weight, our body has a powerful slew of responses that work together to put the weight back on. Here's what happens. Our metabolism starts to slow down, so even if you exercise, you won't burn as much as you did before. We have less energy, and some people feel cold. Our mood is affected, and you might feel irritable, anxious, or depressed. And the reward center of the brain shifts so that snacks and processed foods actually look more appealing to us. And then to top it all off, we get really hungry. All this together is called the starvation response. And it's the same thing that happens when people are actually starving. The point is that this is an unconscious biological process. It's all being controlled by the hypothalamus, an ancient part of our brain that takes all this very seriously, since it's been responsible for our survival for millions of years. And as we've seen, it has some powerful tools at its disposal, so it can be incredibly persuasive. When the hypothalamus squares off against the conscious rational mind, it almost always wins. It's like an elephant with a rider. if the elephant has made up its mind to go one way, but the rider wants to go the other, who do you think is going to win that battle? This is why going on a diet or simply attempting to eat less almost never works. Our rational mind ends up in a losing battle with our biology, our natural instincts. So now you can see that both theories have significant flaws. And the bottom line reason is that body fat is biologically regulated, like sleep and oxygen levels. We have a body fat set point. And it's our body fat set point system that regulates body weight. The problem is that the body fat set point system is better at defending against starvation than it is at defending against gaining weight. So becoming overweight is a result of a dysfunctional body fat system. And just to help you understand this, here's an interesting point. Something happened 50 years ago. Between 1970 until 2010, people started consuming 500 calories more per day. Do you think people decided to do this? Of course not. This is not a conscious process. We didn't decide to eat more. It's a result of a biological process acting on us. It's because our body fat set point system is dysfunctioning. Why is it doing this? I'm going to get more into that in a bit, but the important thing to understand is that the solution is not consciously trying to eat less calories. The solution is going to require us to completely reframe our thinking. We need a paradigm shift. To find a solution that works, we need to address the root cause of what's making the body fat system dysfunctional. The issue is not that we're eating too many calories, it's why we're doing it. When someone gains weight, a high body fat set point becomes the new normal, and the body defends it. The only solution that works is to reset the body fat set point system. This is going to include strategies that lower our caloric intake without forcing this upon ourselves, without our even consciously thinking about it. So let's look at how we do this. Now, if we really want to lose weight, we need to look at the bigger picture. The reality is that what goes on inside the body is not a simple linear equation. Any approach that's going to work needs to take into account the different systems in our body and how they interact. So let's take a basic look at these for a moment. We have the brain, hormones, the gut, and by that I mean the digestive system, and our immune system, among others. And these systems are wired in very specific ways, based on how we've evolved over millions of years. So we have to respect that. And not only do they all affect one another, but they control our ability to lose weight. The bottom line is that if we want to lose weight, we have to work within this system. Let me give you one example. There are lots of hormones in our bodies, and they're super powerful. They control everything from our appetite and eating behavior to our emotions and how energy is stored. I want to talk for a minute about a hormone called leptin. Leptin is one of the main hormones that regulate hunger and weight. One of the things it does is that it makes us feel satisfied after we've eaten. Now, to show you just how powerful this hormone is, I want to tell you about some children who were born with a leptin deficiency. So they were not able to make leptin. And then without leptin, these children had an incredible drive to eat. They never felt satisfied. If their food was restricted even a little, they'd figure out some way to get it, including pulling stale morsels from the trash or gnawing on fish sticks right from the freezer. When they were eating, they were incredibly happy. But when they were out of sight of food, even for a short time, they became really distressed. Because even though these children were obese, their brains thought they were starving. What's fascinating is that they were able to completely eliminate this starvation behavior by giving them leptin injections. When leptin was restored, the children became like regular kids and lost all their excess weight without trying. So this is just a small window into how powerful hormones like leptin can be and how they can dictate everything in our lives when it comes to our appetite, our hunger, and our behavior around food. So the question I have for you is, do you think these children who lacked leptin had a character flaw? Did they lack the desire to be thin? Were they bad? Of course not. They had a hormonal imbalance. And so no matter what, they weren't going to lose weight until leptin was balanced in their body. So now we know what we're up against, but this doesn't mean things are hopeless. Just that to be successful, we're going to have to get to the root cause and respect and work within the systems of our body. The good news is that there are ways to get around the starvation response, to turn down hunger and cravings, and to feel satisfied with the right amount of food. The next logical question then becomes, how do we do it? How do we get all these systems aligned in a way so that we can finally get to a healthy place with our weight? I mean, that's what we're all trying to do, right? And the answer lies in the 4 keys to lasting weight loss. It almost works like a combination lock. And when you get the right code, it can almost feel like flipping a switch. Let's find out what they are. The 4 keys are the food we eat, the way we move our bodies, our body clock, and our mindset. It's the combination of these 4 keys that will actually allow you to reprogram your genes back to their original setting and realign your body to a place where the weight comes off and stays off. And understanding that each of these affects the others. The sleep you get affects your hunger. The kinds of food you eat affects the energy you have to move your body. And moving your body affects your mood and your mindset. Where most programs fail is that they address only 1 or maybe 2 of these areas. And even there, they often go about it the wrong way. It's like having 2 digits of a combination lock. Even if you have those 2 digits, you're never going to get the lock to open. So making the right changes in each of these areas is key. Let's talk about food first. This is a place where there's so much confusion and so many misconceptions about what we should or shouldn't be doing. To start out, as we talked about earlier, so many of us are still holding on to the calories in, calories out thinking. It can show up in all kinds of subtle ways that you may not even be aware of. Like, for example, if you're avoiding avocados because of the fat content, and even low carb thinking, which has become more popular, can be misleading and lead to bad eating choices because this isn't about getting your carbs as low as possible either. When we learn how to let go of these ways of thinking, it changes how we approach this whole thing and the questions we need to be asking ourselves. So rather than having our first question be, how many calories does this have or that have? Or how many points is it? Or even how many carbs does it have? The question we really should be asking is, which foods should we eat to normalize our hunger hormones? What kinds of foods will free us from cravings and shift our bodies into the mode of releasing fat rather than storing it? Because the types of food we eat affects every system in our bodies. It affects our brain, our hormones, our gut health, and our immune system. I hope you're starting to see how this is all interconnected. Studies have found that simply by changing the types of food eaten, participants spontaneously and non-consciously reduced their daily caloric intake, so that they burned over 30,000 calories of their own body fat over the course of the first 12 weeks of eating this way. So to answer the question of which foods you should eat, the best foods are those that eliminate cravings and compulsions, foods that normalize your hormones, and foods that contribute to a healthy gut and immune system. They're going to be foods that make you feel satisfied and taste good. And what's been found is that the greatest predictor of leanness is the extent to which your meals consist of whole, unprocessed foods that are cooked at home. And although there are some across-the-board parameters around which foods lead to these health outcomes and which don't, I have to say there's really a huge range here of what people can eat and be healthy and lose weight. And as far as exactly what's on the menu for you, there's going to be a lot of variability from person to person because the foods that are going to be included or not included on your best path depend on factors that are unique to you. So many of my clients say things like, I thought I was sure I knew what I was supposed to be eating. But a lot of people end up being surprised at what actually works best for them and how much they're able to eat and still lose weight. So I want you to meet Barbara. Barbara is super knowledgeable and really health conscious, but she still struggled to lose her excess weight and suffered with uncomfortable bloating for years. She thought she was doing everything right, but when we made some unexpected changes in her eating, she was really surprised at the results. Let's take a look.
I was surprised that I thought I knew how to eat and what to eat, and that wasn't really what I thought it was. Clearly, it hadn't made a difference for me in the past, so this was huge. I also was surprised at how much food I could eat and how easy it was as long as I took some time to prepare, and the variety and the taste of the food. Sometimes you think about these, I hate to call them diets, but you think about these and you say, I don't want to give up good tasting food. I want things that are yummy, and the food was really yummy. And at the same time, because I was eating that way, my husband Kevin was eating that way, and so he was thrilled. It was surprising how easy it was for both of us to stick with it and really learn along the way some of the things that I thought I knew that I didn't really know. And through the whole process of working through, here's what's going on for me, here's what I'm eating, here's when I'm eating, here's the quantity I'm eating, here's how it's affecting me. And through our back and forth dialogue, I really started to think differently, not only about what I was eating, but about other areas that maybe I had some really strong beliefs in that could be benefited by being a little bit more flexible and working with somebody to help me understand that there are different ways to look at things. I would say I am much more aware of triggers, of emotional triggers, of what I use as a reason or an excuse to eat things that I just know are not going to make me feel good. And doing that helps me to arrest that sooner. I also have a much better sense of when I'm eating it, and it doesn't really taste good. The first 3 bites might have tasted good, but the rest doesn't. It's kind of leaving me flat and stopping myself and saying, okay, why am I eating right now? Am I bored? Am I tired? Am I hungry? And through the process, I started to pay much more attention to my body. And that's been a really nice surprise too.
Okay, let's talk about movement now. When we think about exercise, it's easy to get caught up in the many myths out there. There are a lot of people out there tabulating how many calories they're burning when they're exercising, which is falling into that calories in, calories out thinking. And we know that things are way more complex than that. So again, let's change the question. Rather than ask, how many calories can we burn by doing exercise? The question we want to ask is, how do we move our body in ways that create the results we want? Because that's the bottom line, isn't it? It doesn't matter how much exercise we do if we're not seeing results. And that's part of why I use the word movement here rather than exercise, because this doesn't even need to look like what most of us think of as exercise. I think I told you about how I used to spend hours and hours at the gym without seeing results on the scale. And this happens to people all the time. The bottom line here is that we get results by creating a response in our bodies that helps our hormonal balance, that helps us decrease hunger and cravings, that amps up our metabolism. And there are several pieces to this puzzle, but what's been shown to make the most significant difference as far as fat loss and maintaining weight loss over time is actually increasing low levels of physical activity. Things like walking, playing with your kids, standing instead of sitting, or gardening. The majority of your physical activity should come from this kind of low-level movement. Moving your body in ways that are aligned with how we're genetically wired, is what's going to get the results we want much faster than slogging it out in the usual ways. So now let's talk about the body clock. The body clock plays into what you may know as your body's circadian rhythm. Of course, this includes sleep, but it's actually much bigger than just sleep. There's a way our bodies naturally run with the cycles of daylight and darkness, which directly impacts our ability to lose weight. It does this through interaction with our hormones and our brain. And there are several key places this can make a big difference. One place is finding your natural eating window and aligning your eating within this window. Most people these days have what's called circadian misalignment. They're eating for too long a window, staying up later, and eating their food too late at night. So what's important is that we need to be paying attention to when you eat, when you sleep, and when you get exposed to certain kinds of light. All these things affect your hormones, your brain, and your ability to lose weight. The fourth key is mindset. And I'm not just talking about positive thinking, because this is really so much bigger than that. I'm talking about actually changing the pathways in your brain into new ways of thinking about food and eating, new habits and patterns of behavior, and new ways of managing stress and the challenges that show up in your life. Because even if you have every awesome weight loss strategy in the world, you're going to get into trouble at some point if you don't have a way to work through things like fear, self-doubt, and overwhelm. How many times have you started a weight loss plan or diet, hit a challenge or a plateau, and then thrown in the towel because you felt defeated? There are things that keep even the best intentioned, most motivated people stuck. Because way more important than what you do or what you eat is who you become along the way. This is something that I hear from my clients over and over again. Yes, I'm losing weight, and yeah, I'm feeling great, but the amazing thing is, now I've changed. I'm stronger. I'm more confident. I don't let setbacks keep me stuck. I know how to work through the obstacles and keep going. Those are the kind of things I want to hear you say too, where you lose the weight, have more energy, and P.S., you're also becoming a more powerful person. I want to introduce you to Kelly. Kelly struggled with making promises to herself regarding food and her weight that she just kept breaking. She hated the fact that she felt like she couldn't trust herself, but she was able to develop that sense of trust, which was huge. Let's take a look.
I was tired of feeling like I was letting myself down and making promises to myself and not keeping them. Most afternoons, I just had huge sugar cravings. I would just go hunt out and eat tons of sweets. Like, to loop back had me feel like, well, tomorrow I don't want to be doing this. I don't really want to feel like just that craving and like I'm really need to get the sugar fix. So not having sugar cravings anymore is just really amazing. And just amazingly freeing. I think that I do have a new confidence in myself. I definitely feel just more comfortable with myself and my body. And I think it's not just the weight loss. It's that it gets back to that I'm trusting myself and knowing that I think even looking back on the times that I wasn't successful with weight loss, that it wasn't that I just like had bad willpower and it wasn't a good person. It's like, oh, when I found the right things for me to eat, after that, it was easy. And it didn't become about like a willpower grit through it. It was just, oh, this is what I'm eating and I can trust myself because it's easy to make these decisions in a way that I've never had before. I feel like I can maintain this forever. I was just tired of not being successful, of not trusting myself. So that is, wow, I'm going to get a little sappy, but it's priceless to feel that I can trust myself. Yeah, and that I can set boundaries for myself that are healthy. It's awesome.
So we've covered a lot. We've talked about the 3 biggest mistakes most people make when they try to lose weight, and we've outlined the 4 keys to long-term success. But there's a difference between knowing the path and walking the path. So here are some questions to think about. Are you going to get off this webinar today and know exactly what to do to find your best path to weight loss? And do you have a coach to help you deal with the fear, doubt, and overwhelm that show up along the way? Do you have someone who can hold your hand and walk you through every step of the process? Because I got to tell you, I've seen people get back on that merry-go-round over and over. And your chances of success dramatically skyrocket when you do this the right way with the right support. And I'm not saying it has to be me, but it ought to be someone, because most people who try to do this on their own just don't make it. I mean, that's just the reality. So now you have a choice. You can finish this webinar and continue on the path you are on. A lot of people spend years of their lives and a lot of heartache going back to Weight Watchers or other programs, or trying to figure it out on their own. Or you can find your right path right now and start walking it. You get to write your story. The time to do that is now. If you're ready for your story to change, then here's what I have for you. It's not an app or a diet or a one-size-fits-all designed for the masses program. It's a customized for you, one-on-one partnership where I personally walk you through the process of finding your best path to weight loss, or what I call YUP, your unique plan. So let me ask you, how would things be different for you if getting to the right weight could feel easy and doable and something you know you can sustain forever? If you were free from the overwhelm and the noise in your head about what you should or shouldn't be eating and beating yourself up every time you don't do what you say you'll do? How would things change if your path was clear and you knew with certainty that you could handle every challenge, every obstacle that came your way? How would you show up differently in the world if you were walking around feeling good in your body, with more energy? If you could eliminate the worry about your health, if you could stop worrying about losing weight and start spending your time and energy on the people and things that matter most to you. I want to introduce you to one more person. Reeves had been on all kinds of diets, but continued to gain the weight back every time. In the past, each time she dieted, she felt like she was battling something. This time around was completely different. I'll let her tell you about it.
I was worried about doing something and failing, like I maybe had done before, or lapsing back into old habits. And I was worried that I wouldn't be able to lose any weight at all because I had tried so much before. I was like, is this it? Am I just stuck in this particular place? And I also wanted to do it in a way that felt more authentic to myself, and trying to force myself to be in Weight Watchers again, which just filled me with a lot of dread. I didn't want to do it. Other programs that I tried where I just felt like I was trying to force myself to do something that obviously hadn't lasted. I think some of the biggest changes were just the ways I started thinking about food and the way I started thinking about eating. And besides the fact that when the weight started coming off, it felt really good, and it felt really, like I was working a process, instead of battling something. And I think that's an interesting word to use, is that in the past I felt like I have been battling things, and it didn't feel like such a battle. But as you and I talked about food and the different types of food and when to eat, and I sort of took the advice that you had and then worked it out on myself to see what actually really worked best for me. That was not just a body changer, but it was a mind changer. It was definitely worth that kind of investment in myself. And I felt like what you gave back to me, besides along with the information, but just the meetings and the ways in which we interacted, I just haven't found it anywhere else. So it really, because I feel like I've opened up, just not having to think about foods, not having to think about, oh my gosh, am I going to eat the right thing? I just, eating to where I feel really good, and then moving on with the other stuff that I want to do has been a real, it just changes the way I live. So it just really worked. It just really worked.
I mentioned at the beginning that I have something for you, and here's what it is. I want to offer you a chance to speak personally, either on the phone or face-to-face on Zoom. I've set aside some time to talk with you within the next 48 hours. We'll get on a call for about 45 minutes, and during that time, we'll discover what's been keeping you stuck. We'll talk all about you. You can ask me any questions, and we'll see if Yup is a good fit for you. And the best part is that whether or not we decide to work together, you'll walk away with clarity and specific action items that you can use to get started getting results right now. Either way, you're going to get tremendous value out of this call. And I promise you, it's going to be the best 45 minutes you've spent working on yourself in a long time. I know it can be hard to open yourself up to one more attempt, especially if you've been through programs that have failed you over and over. But I promise there is a solution for you, and together we can find it. So here's who this is for, because this is not for everyone. Before you schedule a call, I want you to first ask yourself, is this a now thing? And what I mean by that is getting down to your ideal healthy weight something you're chomping at the bit to make happen, and waiting any longer is not an option? And are you open to new ways of looking at things and doing things? Because this is a journey, and we're going to discover together what your best path is, which will probably look different from things you've tried in the past. So an open mind is key. If this is you, I want you to book a session to talk with me right now. So let's talk about why I'm doing this. I've made it my life's work to help people just like you. And I'm happy to give you 45 minutes of my time and my years of experience if it means I might be able to help move the needle for you. And the best way to find out whether this is a good fit is to get on the phone and have a conversation. It's that simple. So if you want to book a call with me, go to www.bookmandy.com. People love these sessions. You're going to love this session. You're going to get tremendous value out of it. So listen, like I said, you have a choice right now. The link is up on the screen. You can go ahead and give it a click. Now, when you go to that page, you'll see a calendar. Just pick out a date and time that work for you. Then you'll be taken to a short questionnaire, just a few questions that help me learn a little about you before we talk. Then I'll either send you the Zoom link or call you at the scheduled time. That's it. Now, if you've been struggling, I would love nothing more than to help you figure this thing out once and for all. So click on the link, book a call to speak with me. I promise it will be the most valuable time you've spent in a long time. My calendar does fill up, so make sure you grab a spot now. I'm Mandy Dieglesmith. Thank you for watching, and I'll speak to you very, very soon.